Oh, right. Um, I wasn't quite sure how to do this. I have a... In the Netherlands you say korte lontje, which is basically saying I have a lot of anger that I carry around with myself. And when I fail to engage with that anger, I get kind of like tilted to one side. You can call that then the left or the right wing. I just call that imbalance. And the only way I find that helps me to deal with this kind of stuff is basically art. Now, art is something that I would say is very specific to the individual. I know that there are certain things that keep me going, that keep me rolling, that keep me from giving in to the idea that, I'm a piece of shit and I can't do anything. And the only thing that helps me with that is art. Probably, right, like a decent woman that wants to spend time with me would also be a possibility. I mean, we all know what a good woman can do to you when she really loves you. And I've been looking for one. I think I found one. It's my own insecurity that probably keeps me from accepting it. But you never know until you found it. Or until it finds you. Because I cannot say that I'm awfully proud of who I am or was, or right, my ideas of how I needed to be. And I mean, what does that even mean? Well, I would suggest it means that life's tough. And we all gotta deal with it in our own specific way. Now, I've been waiting actually to play the game called Oddworld Apes Odyssey. But I've been told by my conscience that I first have to do something like this. I mean, something bold, if you want to call it like that. Plus, I also have to work on a book. So I cannot simply just fuck around all the time. I've been trying smoking cannabis, and there's always the problem that it actually might make you feel like you're very tired. And wow, there's so many beautiful images that I took, but I don't have the feeling anybody has a lot of interest in my perspective. And I think that's not true at all. It's just that when you do certain things for the public, let's say you speak truth. What's truth, right? It's a very, very broad perspective that needed to be narrowed down to, I think that's how it is. And that to me is one of the hardest things that I had to learn how to do, which is basically keep a level head and make sure that you don't get too sucked into all these ideas that go around on news media, if you know what I mean. I'm trying to know what I mean, and that's tough. Like, I'm trying to figure out what I'm trying to say all the time. And that literally is one of the toughest things that I've come across, because it's the challenge of simply being honest about your own ideas, the way you feel, right? How do you feel about life? How do you feel about life, you yourself? And how does it look like when you're looking at it from the perspective of other people? Now, I'm not awfully certain that everything I'm doing is really good. I've been giving people teachings, and I've been receiving teachings from people that I may never see again. And that's one of the hardest teachings that I found, that you simply say, you know what? I've been trying to keep you around, but you simply treat me with silence. And so at one point, you simply stopped. And then you simply leave it up to the world and to life to say, hey, these are the people that really matter. And I feel like if you are simply overexerting yourself and showering people with your, let's call it, love, I like the word attention, then you fail to give them the opportunity to grow up and to show you how much you actually mean to them. And I've been realizing this more and more often, that as I was spending time with people, right, let's say in the park, there's a very specific memory I have of this, where I was spending time with someone, from a, I'm a healer perspective, I would probably call him a patient. And I felt like he was actually in pretty bad shape. And at one point, he was just sitting around doing drugs. He looked like very gloomy, or that's how I felt when I saw him. And he asked me to play frisbee, and I started to engage with him. And then he started to realize what I'm about, that I'm here in the spirit of change. And some people are very reluctant to accept this kind of change, The old world order where everything is being ruled by money is kind of going down the drain, because people realize that there is no value in money alone, that what you really want is love. And there are beings out there that are able to show this to the world simply by doing what they love doing. And if you start doing what you love doing, then you're gonna learn the hard way that people these days are really fucked up. I mean, if you have something that you like, trust me, people are going to start to hate you. Because that's the place where they're coming from. It's not that they hate you, it's just they hate themselves in a way because they failed to be free. Because that's what this really is about, this whole thing, society, right? People want to be the best. The politician wants to stand there and smile and feel good about what he's done. But due to all the corruption in the states and in governments, no politician feels good anymore about their job. They just fucking hate it. But now they're in it, they have to keep doing it because they told themselves that they're actually doing something good. While now they have to realize, damn it, I'm just in here for the power. And that's basically the thing about this modern world. How, the guy who creates the most content is probably then the sickest guy around, right? It's like, I mean, if you manage to stand above the suffering of the world and simply keep doing what you love on a frequent basis, then people will start to follow you. So all you have to do is simply keep going. And if you listen to people like Chris Webster, he already produced his music since he was 16. You could say I only started fairly late in life because I was waiting for something. Right? Some point of no return. And I think we all know when this point was there, and you either jumped on the train and joined the brawl, or you simply sucked up to the haters. And that's what I like about Chris Webby, right? Although he is singing a lot about fucking and, drugs, he always stresses the point that he's still doing it for the love because, how do you know if somebody's honest about liking what they do? It's if they simply keep going. Eminem kept going despite all his struggles, and then people say, yeah, but he's a drug addict. Yeah, and he's still making music. So he's still rhyming. Maybe he's not rhyming about living on the streets no more, but he's rhyming about, whatever his life is about. And, that's what people appreciate on the long run, because what they really want is just somebody honest, that can show the world, I actually like what I'm doing. Because everybody else has this look on their faces that just says, yeah, I mean, could this just stop? And I'm having the same thing. I mean, today, what did I do? I cleaned my apartment. I dusted out my carpet. I hang it out of the window and then shook it off. It was a sunny day, so I could just leave it on the window sill. Is that the word? I'm pretty sure it's the word. And I could just let it, be cleaned by the wind. Let's just say it like this. And I was the whole day already looking forward actually to playing Oddworld, Apes Odyssey, but it just felt a little bit shit about just doing it. And then I was looking for something, what could I do? Do I want to do the laundry? And then I thought, nah, I can do that later. Because I enjoy doing the laundry at night. although it's a challenge to get yourself to do laundry at night. And then, I don't have to bump into my neighbors. And it's not that my neighbors are really bad, but you just have to understand where I'm coming from, like the kind of world that I live in. I'm keeping myself relatively clean, right? I mean, I do watch these images, GIFs, moving images of couples that have sex simply because I really love sex and I'm really honest about it. And at the moment I just don't have any because, I'm not like Chris Webster or Chris Webby. I never liked this kind of, let's get drunk, party and fuck. I like being the way I am. I suppose I would be more a bit like Toph. I don't really need the attention. To me, attention is actually annoying. And when I was younger and I saw people like Justin Bieber, I always thought, why the fuck would you ever want to be famous? And when my life started changing and I felt like I have been given certain abilities, but all the people I found that could give me work were kind of dishonest. I mean, they didn't do it for the love, they just did it for the money, right? They just wanted to be powerful and cool, but they didn't really share it how I thought it should be shared. And so I was looking for ways out of this, and I did fall in love with a woman, and I've been talking a great deal about that love and the way it makes me feel. I think I'm fairly certain that this is really honest love and that one day we will be together. Although everybody I talk to about this says, yeah, that's not it. And I get it. I mean, actually I've never said really, yeah, I think a lot of women that I met, I thought, this is different. But it also has been different every time, so I was actually honest about it. I just said, it's different. But how different, you never know until you know. And I've been trying to, you could say, get away from this. But I just don't manage. I mean, I rather stay at home and do my art. And I also have to be honest about this one, because I think I've just been using this young woman as an example of how you could feel, right? But I also realized there's no point to feeling like this. Why? Well, it's more or less simple. Because this thing that I'm describing literally only exists on the inside. So there's no proof in the outside world that this exists. And that's the perspective of other people, of course, because to me it's very real. And if I would talk to this about people, these people would never understand it. And why? Well, that's a fairly simple thing. Why? Well, because they don't understand it. I mean, what I'm talking about is this, I really love you. Not in a, I just want to have sex, or I'm really dependent on you, but more in a, there's love. And what that means is that if you love someone so much that you are willing to change your entire existence and to learn how to be, safe and sound on your own, how to basically, right, to not kill yourself, I would say that's a pretty strong motive. That's how I feel, right? That's a pretty, I really want to take my time, so I started doing this. I'm not really overly fuzzed about whether or not you can see what I'm doing, because I've recorded what I'm doing so many times that at this point I think, you know, you should just learn how to do it yourself. You know, I'm just recording this because I think it's nice. And because I'm, right, what we would probably call a content creator, although I'm actually an artist that creates content to show people what you can actually do if you open up to your true potential by acknowledging the tasks that life has been giving you, but that you were too afraid to accept. Because all the time, life is trying to tell you something, you know, this is what you could do now, right? It's like, why aren't you doing this? You know, why aren't you doing that? It's a tough ride. I mean, it's a tough ride. And there's no way to know whether it's gonna give you anything other than, I think I really love this. And I mean, how are you supposed to do it in such a way that liberates you and others? Because let's say, you know, that would actually be interesting if they would start making a Morpheus Origins. I think I just created it with my own mind. Like, if they would do an Origins, I mean, listen to this shit. What am I saying about Morpheus? Holy crap. I mean, it's pretty hard. The actor that acted Morpheus, I think, was probably one of the best for the job. And I feel like there was a lot of power in the way he has been displayed, but most of all in the way the actor portrayed the character. And I'm trying to really not get too sucked into, you know, feeling awesome about what I'm saying on here. And that is simply for the reason that sometimes I really don't know what I'm actually saying. And that's really true. Sometimes I really don't know what I'm actually saying. You know, I turn on the microphone and I start speaking. And then all these words come out. And, you know, on one level, sure, you could say, you know, I'm the one doing this. But on another level, you could also say, yeah, I have no idea where this is coming from. You know, it's just there. You know, I open my mouth and words come out. You know, I take a color and then it suddenly looks like this. You know, I'm not overly sure about the I in this one. But what I do know is that I shouldn't judge what I'm doing too much. Because, you know, other people may see it in an entirely different way than I am. And that's a very liberating thing to realize, that, you know, maybe you can put it like, maybe you're less important than you think, or maybe your opinion is less important than actually the fact that you're just doing it. And maybe that connects me back to Ramdas. Sometimes I hate talking really smart. Or maybe that's what people really need, right? Somebody who can elaborate on these topics in a right, skillful way. so that people can understand themselves a little bit better. Because I have had the time and the tools and the training to learn how to express my emotions, but most of all, how to understand also other people's emotions. Through the experiences that I made in Africa, very intense experiences, and realizing, what my true potential was and is, and how I'm actually different from other people. And that's probably one of the most tough realizations that you can have, simply because everybody thinks they're super tough, right? Everybody. You meet people that live in Germany, and these people are so stuck up on their idea that they're the greatest of all, right? They have a big car, and they think that makes them into really good people. They think, I have the right to be an asshole. And, I've been in Africa, I've been living there in the bush with 4.5-meter crocodiles. Well, let's make it 4, whatever. With, giant spiders, scorpions, snakes, huge pythons. And I've been taught by nature, what it means to be strong. If you think you're strong, and you walk around because you just ate some stuff that makes you into some kind of, I don't know, maybe you've been snorting cocaine or some shit, and you think, yeah, I'm the best guy around. And then nature comes and says, nature's always better, my friend. And that's why I cannot take people like NF, whatever his life story is, but you can clearly see that he's not been sorted out by nature, because he may think he stands above it, or he may be too proud or too afraid. And I cannot really say a lot about this other than, nature makes strong people. People make more like weak people. What we've been trying with society, ants are doing a much better job at this. And that's not a secret, that's just a fact. It's just a very, very sturdy fact, right? That nature is better at living than we are, because we have too many concepts in our mind as to what life is supposed to be like. And when you want to be a content creator, such as I, or such as other people, I think what you always have to have in the back of your mind is that, first of all, there may always be someone better than you. And that's probably something that scares most people. Which is why all these rappers try to be super... they're just assholes, if you ask me. Right? I feel like all these rappers really do... they just pick on each other. It's like, fucking women? Come on, man. What are you, some kind of ape? And not even apes do that, because apes have sex within their family constellations. They have a tribe, and in this tribe, there are women. Right? That's the basic idea. And then these women are gonna have sex with men, and these men are, right, before long going to produce children. That's fairly simple, right? I mean, that's fairly simple. You know, you got living beings that live together, and because they are kind of similar, right, they can propagate. Oh, what am I doing? They can propagate and make more life, right? It's like, oh wow, let's have sex together. But they don't just have it for having sex. I mean, they have sex because they are able to see each other in each other, and they learned how to simply be together in harmony. Right, and then humans come, they're like, these are animals, you know, they shit and they do all this kind of stuff, and then they feel ashamed because humans, of course, do the same thing, right? It's like, you're doing the same thing. I mean, it's very obvious, isn't it? No, you know, we're better. We are better. Okay. That's a hard one to deal with. Because what's better? I mean, what's better than nature? I mean, I haven't found anything yet. Jesus, why can I not change this? That often annoys me a little, that I'm trying to change this, but it just won't allow me. See, now it allowed me, but then not anymore. It's like, no more of this. I mean, talking about frustration, why can I not go further? Right, it's like, alright. Huh? What is this color doing? I think it's good. You know, what I also learned is don't be too picky on what you're doing here. Huh? What's this? Simply because most people that are going to try to say something about this have no idea what they're talking about. And I'm not just saying this in a really nice way. I mean, I'm just saying it in a way that reminds me where most people are coming from. And most people come from a place of fear that's buried inside of them. You know what? I don't like this at all. So all I can do about this is just be honest and change it. Because why do I always have to do it the way that I think others want it? I mean, this already looks pretty good. But now I've also realized something, that I actually want to do it a little bit different. And that's the freedom I have in my art. But I also feel like that my art comes at the cost of, you know, a potentially broken back. And why I say that is that that's how I feel about it. Simply due to the fact that, you know, in a way I have to sit a lot. I mean, nobody's forcing me to sit a lot, but I'm just sitting a lot, if you know what I mean. You know, I'm sitting a lot, like, a lot. Too much for my taste, if you wanna really know, if you must know. And I'm trying to get rid of that sitting, which is why I'm doing everything I can to turn myself into a man, basically. And to bring my life to the next stage. And the next stage is something that scares me a lot. Like, really a lot. Why? Well, because in a way, that's what it is, right? It's scary. To realize that you are about to enter into a dynamic relationship with a woman. And I would say, I mean, that's easy to understand that may scare any man to the brink of insanity. I don't know when it's gonna come. I may not even know how it's gonna look like. All I know is that I'm kind of waiting for this to happen. And it's a challenge, to say the least. To even imagine that there would be a woman here with me, what's this? Ah, I see. But I know, it sounds probably worse than it is. But it's just something that, although I know I want it, you know, I'm just trying to keep it away from me. I'm trying to keep it away from me because it's just super scary. It's just super scary. Yeah, that's how I feel like. It's just super scary. It's just super scary, you know, you can make a song of this. But at the moment I just don't feel like making songs because I'm really lonely and sad, right? I'm really lonely and sad. I'm really lonely and sad. I'm really lonely. So lonely and sad. Yeah, that makes no sense. Unless you know how it feels like to be really lonely and sad. Which I apparently do. And because I know how it feels like to be lonely and sad. I can make choices that if I were to meet or have an opportunity to live with a woman and have a family, that I could realize, oh wow, there's actually a different way of living than the one that I have prescribed myself due to my feeling that I'm a real piece of shit. Simply because that's how I feel about myself. Which is true. But there's also never been a woman that convinced me otherwise. I mean, really said like, you know, you're it. Maybe she said it and I just didn't hear. It's possible. But it's also possible that she just didn't communicate it very well. Why? Because a lot of people these days have actually no idea how to communicate anymore. Which is why you have to learn, basically, how to communicate with others in order to make yourself understood, because people have no idea what they're even saying anymore. I mean, everybody's so confused by all of this, where I would say transgender is just the pinnacle. You know, it's just the expression of we're confused. I mean, I don't even know if I'm a man or a woman anymore. I mean, that's pretty confused in my book. Right, so the question is not if we should do something about this, but it's just we should do something about this. And what the question then is what are we going to do about this? Right? I mean, what are we going to do about this as a community of people that said, you know, we're gonna bring life to the next stage and create a society, you know, like it has never been seen before. I mean, that's like a pretty hard one to crack. How are we going to do that? Well, probably the way I feel about it, by engaging with each other in a different way than we have so far. Because how have we engaged with each other so far? Well, I would call that really toxic. Right? It's like really toxic. Not just a little bit, but really, really toxic. And I've been trying to find ways how to change that in myself and in others. Right? How can I cure basically my own toxicity? And what you then realize is there's actually a point of no return, where you've changed yourself so much that you realize I literally cannot go back anymore. Right? Like, I think this is it. I mean, I've changed myself so much that I just knew I couldn't go back anymore. And that's a very scary place to be in. Simply because that's what it feels like. I mean, it feels like it's a very scary place to be in. And probably the only way you would be able to renounce that is if you would also renounce yourself. Yeah, you see, now we're getting back to these very complicated topics that I find really hard to understand, and that, right, like you can really just lose yourself in them. It's just, right, I mean, it is super complicated. Everything is super complicated. And Jesus, this is turning out to be harder than I thought. I'm not sure why though. You know, sometimes I'm just fiddling around for ages until I find something that feels right. And I think I'm pretty certain that I've been fiddling around with myself way longer than with anyone else. And it's kind of annoying, to be honest. Why? Well, because there's just too much going on. With a lot of things. And I'm not always sure how much I like it. I mean, and you can call yourself a legacy, but if you fail to just be a little bit nice about life, and to yourself, then how do you plan on being true? I mean, you get what I'm saying? So, what this is really about for me is simply making choices that feel like, you know, I think this is actually gonna help me to progress. And but that also means that if there's a woman where I feel, you know, this woman's been holding me back, you know, it's hard to say if that's even possible, because who's holding you back, right? I mean, you're probably holding back yourself, and then you're just pushing it on others. because it's just too hard for you to accept that, right? You're the one that's standing in your own way. And that's pretty tough, just in general, if you know what I mean. Because then you have to take responsibility for, right, if you wanted to quote Ramdas, yeah, I cannot quote anyone anymore. I'm too far away for that. And that's a hard one to accept, I think. So what do you do? Well, you say, thank you for the ride. I think we've been having possibly a good time. Possibly. But I also think from here on out, I just have to do what I have to do. And you can still say things like, I believe that, we gave this our best shot, but, it's just too much for me. But that's just, I think you're just too much for me. That's something you can say. Like, that's an honest opinion. That's a, my life has changed. And, this is pretty scary for me because I have the feeling there's no space for anyone. But that's only true to a very, very oh. I think I like this. I'm not sure, right? That's all I can say. I'm not entirely sure that what I'm doing is actually good. That what I'm doing is actually true. I mean, I keep running into problems along the way. I keep running into problems with people that I think I came here to love, right? And I keep running into problems with myself. And I keep running into problems generally. Now let's see where this is going to. Right. You see, what I'm trying to say is I often fail to realize what kind of impact I have on other people. And that's probably the hardest to deal with. Because you're going to keep questioning yourself. You're going to keep questioning yourself. I mean, because you don't know anymore, right? I don't know anymore. And the reason I don't know anymore is because I've tried so many things on the internet. And I'm trying really hard to get this thing to the next level. But all I see is, right, nothing. I mean, that's what I've been giving. I've been giving on the surface. Now this is actually a quite interesting image, because what kind of voices are you listening to? I just realized something was feeding me. Shh. And I'm not sure how that happens. You know, how much am I creating this self-manipulation? You know, how much is staying inside really me? You know, how much is, let's say, smoking cannabis really helping me? And I've been smoking this stuff called HHC for a while now, and I'm not so sure that it's actually something nice. You see, I call this one friend or foe simply because of what just happened. I mean, I saw something there. There was clearly something there, like something black and dark. And I'm often drawing, you know, like portals in space where there's like an eye looking through it. And I know that other people can open portals into my own domain simply by focusing on me as an individual, right? They can focus specifically on me and then try to figure out, you know, what is he doing? You know, so if, let's say, a mother thinks a lot about her child, then she can actually create thoughts in the child's mind. You know, if the mother, for example, has problems with herself and she's dealing with a lot of fear and anxiety, you know, she may, if she would focus enough on the child and project all her worries onto the child, she would be able to because what is projection? Especially basically trying to, yeah, I'm just posting it directly. I always do that. You know, projection works that way. I have an emotion, anger, fear, whatever. I project it onto you, and then I create a landscape of fear for you, which is what you see in this image, right? It's like he takes it like a strong person. But let's say a mother that's really worried is just gonna be like, oh, you know, life is so scary. And that's really sickening, because why is it sickening? Well, it makes you sick because it's trying to get you to believe that whatever your mother is saying, you know, is the truth. Right? That whatever your mother is saying is actually the truth. And you don't know whether it is the truth until you start to figure it out for yourself. You know, what is the truth? It's something that comes with experience, I would say. I mean, I would say truth is something that comes from experience. By going out there and simply allowing yourself to make your own experiences and to see whether what your parents have taught you is actually the real deal. Like, is life really as scary as they say it is? Or, is it actually different? Now, I've been holding back for a while with my digital art, which is art that I do solely digitally. And why? I cannot fully say. Right, so I just had the feeling, right, that's what I wanted to do. Now this is going to be another one of my birds of paradise, and sometimes it's really hard to, have everything in check. Just like this one. Yeah, that's how I wanted it. I like this. I like this craning your neck. It's like craning your neck to see what's going on, right? That's how some people are. They're like really craning their necks. Okay, now I'm going to do just white underneath. Simply because what's this? You see, this has to be connected. Just see. All right. The way I work with this doesn't have to be perfect. My art is never about, it has to be super perfect. I just want it to be honest, right? I want it to be, this is the image that I just wanted to make, right? And that's what gives me freedom, if you will. Hey, that's interesting. Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, that's it. So now I can put it on top of it. Now I do color threshold. That's just a setting you have to find in GIMP. Sometimes I do screen recordings so that you can actually see. See, if I now activate the color, it's going to cover the whole thing. But I can also do it actually differently. I could say threshold and then put it all the way up so that I think that's actually nicer. And also always make sure to save these files, simply because sometimes my computer crashes. And I'm just gonna work on this and see what it's gonna be. Right, and then I have certain ideas. Oh yeah, that's the one. Or that's not the one. And then I have to select and deselect. You see now I have a tool here. Wait. Oh. Oh yeah, actually it's not being recorded. I did that on purpose. And then you simply have to check, select the right tool in the brushes, and then you put color on it. And then it's of course up for you to decide how you want it to look. Sometimes I go for really lifelike, and sometimes I say, you know, just fuck it. I'm just gonna make it glow. This one I have the feeling I want it to look a bit lifelike. It's not entirely about that though. It's more about, you know, what do you want? Right? Is it about standing out? Right? Do you want to just be the coolest guy in the room? Or do you just want to make nice stuff? And I don't have to do everything myself. That's certainly true. But I can work hard to create something decent and honest, and to simply, oh wow, you know, give it the best that I can. And then make sure that, you know, whatever I'm trying to do with my art, you know, is going to get into the right hands. And that I feel is one of the hardest challenges. Wow. I really love this. There's sometimes things coming in that you never thought could come. But sometimes I also have to be honest and say, yeah, I'm not sure if I like this. I'm not sure if I like it. And maybe you don't even understand why you don't like it. You just realize, I don't like it. You know, sometimes I'm not awfully certain that what I'm doing is good. But then I always have an option, right? I can always change what I'm doing. And the way I've been doing it, you know, nobody, you know, can really force me to keep doing what I'm doing. Which is why the whole idea of being trapped in a contract is probably very stupid and unrealistic. Because no man, I would say, stands above the law of Dharma. And the law of Dharma is what I would say simply honest work. Like, you figure out what you came here to do, and then you continue to do it until you're done. I mean, that's a very solid summary. And that's basically all there is to it. And I realized that there are so many things that are trying to take me away from what I think I should be doing. You see, now I forgot that this was supposed to be like this. And I think I don't like it anymore. I think I like it better if it's black. I think I want this one to just be a little bit more bright. Yeah, so the question is always, you know, when are you going to stop with doing what you're doing? And are you ever going to stop? Well, who's to say, right? I mean, do I have to decide this now? Or can I simply keep going and see where I'm gonna get with it? You know, that's like... I'm not sure if I like it like this. Well, it would certainly give me the opportunity to use the green if I want it. If I wanted that. What I can do is I can say, you know, let's do this. We can go select, shrink by 6. Realize that 6 is not enough, try 25. Realize 25 is too much, try 12. Oh yeah, wait, that's what I want. And then select, invert, just delete it. And now suddenly we've got something else. I mean, that's all right. You see, I'm not quite sure what's being said sometimes, but there are messages. There are messages that I can hear, like literally hear. And I'm not always certain what these messages are actually saying. And sometimes I feel like I actually don't want to know. I just don't want to know. And the reason why I don't want to know is that it's simply too much information sometimes. Right? It's just simply too much information. And I mean, if you've been too long out of touch, and just listen to what I'm saying, what does it mean to be out of touch? What does it mean to be out of touch? Now I want to mix blue and... what is the other color I'm trying to get here? You know, figure it out. Blue and... because now we've already got red in here, right? So you want to have blue and, you know, green is also already in there. So this looks already pretty nice, to be honest. Right? Which means now I have a sturdy background that separates the foreground. And now you have to ask yourself, how big do you want the tiles to be? And how is it going to look like in the end? Now I had an idea. You see, I constantly hear voices in my head. That's not a sign of madness. That's just truth, right? That's how, that's what it is. What this is, I'm hearing voices. And now I have to make a choice whether I think these voices are really bad, or if these voices can help me to figure out what I'm supposed to do next. But knowing that I can actually hear the thoughts of other people if I listen, but then what are the people, like, whose thoughts are you listening to? It could be your neighbor's thoughts, it could be your parents' thoughts, it could be, somebody, your inner child or something. And that's what I sometimes have a problem to figure out, like whose thoughts I'm actually listening to, and am I just making this up? That's probably one of the most solid and relevant questions that you may confront in your life, right? Am I just making all of this up? It's a pretty hard one to swallow. And then to give birth to an answer may take you some years of time, because the closest thing to, yeah, I think I figured it out is, it's just the way it is, right? It's just the way it is, and I cannot simply say that what I'm feeling is the truth, right? Nor can I say that it's a lie. What I can do is I can accept that I'm feeling this way, and then I can learn to deal with it in whatever way that feels appropriate, if you want to say it like this. Appropriate, right? It's like a very judgmental word, because what's appropriate? Well, I would say appropriate is that whatever you find worth listening to, can only be half bad. What I mean to say is that, right, if you're listening to angry voices by choice, then right, what are these voices really saying? And is that what you want to hear for the rest of your life? And that's basically a choice that I had to make over and over again. Because I've been doing some weird things. Not bad. I'm not saying bad weird, I'm just saying weird. And I'm saying weird because, I'm not sure how else to describe it. I'm saying weird because maybe the word I'm actually looking for is unusual. Unusual may be a pretty good word for this, if you wanted to call it unusual. But another word may be hypocritical, because if you are dishonest about what you want because you're afraid to want it, because you think, it could never be like this, then how are you ever going to be true about your heart's desire? Right? Like, if there's something that you really want, if you really wanted it, you would go and get it. And that you're the only one that can make that choice, right? It's like you're the only one. And that's probably the hardest one to swallow. That you're the one that keeps yourself from getting exactly what you want. It's like this image. I keep fiddling around with it, although I already found one that I liked. And that's the same thing about love in general, right? I keep looking for love in anything, in cannabis, in people, in images of naked women, simply because I have a problem to realize how much I already love someone. You could say, isn't that just projection? Yeah, I think it might be. If you wanted to call it like this. But again, it's like this image. I have nothing against creating images like this. But at a certain point, it may just become a little bit too tedious to keep pushing it through. Because look how many layers I already have. And I'm still working on this one. Like, what am I trying to find in here is also another very solid question. I think I've never used the term solid question before. But I think what I'm trying to say with it is, you're the only one that can answer these things. And what I find is that the truth can really sting in a very, I feel like that's not really romantic anymore kind of way. And that's probably as far as romanticizing your own drama is ever going to get you. Because what's the point really to romanticize anything at all other than feeling more like you're struggling or something? Because isn't that what this thing is really about? Everybody just wants to look like they have it the hardest. That's what I feel. Right? Everybody wants to have the feeling, my life is the hardest. And I'm just trying to take it easy. I'm trying to take it easy, not because it really is easy, but because, it might be if I started looking for it in the right place. And this art is quite challenging to me. And I'm just trying to get more levels into this, right? The further I go. So you start with, let's say, a certain kind of relationship, and you end with nothing. and then you go towards something else. And somewhere along the way, you feel like, I kind of feel like I lost it. You know, who said it? There was someone that said something about this. You know, that somewhere along the way I kind of lost that wide-eyed girl from Boston. And Boston brings me to Floston Paradise and the movie called Fight for Nature. No, that's not the movie. It's called... Well, that's basically it. I mean, if you want to do anything at all, it's probably best to simply say, I think I want to fight for something. And the only thing that I find worth fighting for is nature. Because that's what gave me the most in my own life. It's what enlightened me, I would say. So the truth that, you know, life can be different if you're allowing it to be, instead of holding on to the idea that it has to be miserable. And that is what is probably really hard to swallow, simply because, I mean, there's so many layers to it. You know, I can keep adding them. I mean, you just seeing me do this, you know, but, I mean, I've been doing this for a while now, and what I can say is, there is no end to it. There is no end to it. Like, you can keep going with whatever you're doing for a very long time. And that is probably a blessing and a curse. So, I mean, I'm pretty certain that it's a blessing if you manage to find something that truly fulfills you. And I mean with that something that stands outside of, you know, clinging to someone to give it to you. And what I mean with that is, I mean, nobody can really give you what you want unless you really want it. Nobody can really give you what you really want unless you really want it. And that sounds really smart. And it may be some really hard-earned wisdom. And I think this image may be really overloaded by me trying to figure out how it's supposed to look like. Wow, that looks cool. But that's all I have in the end, right? It's like, I can make a choice that's really bad for someone else. Wow. I never thought it would be like this. And suddenly it is. I mean, that looks pretty neat. Crazy. And just to see the difference, right? What do you like better? This just makes it look a little bit brighter. Of course, what I could do is I could check the hue settings. And the check, you know, is it nice if it's red, pink, green, blue, pink. I think it's already... I think this is already good. Oh shit. Now I changed it to yellow. I know, I just feel like I'm on the brink of understanding something big. And I'm not sure what that means. Like, honestly. You see, it's just the best way. You know, I'm sometimes trying to fiddle around with it. But then I realize, you know, once it's done, it's done. And then you have to let go of it. And that's the same thing you can do with anything. I mean, there are people that keep writing books. George R.R. Martin never finished his. You know, how are you gonna call this one? I craned my neck. Crane. Neck crane. You know Max Payne? This one is called Max Crane. Max Crane. It's like... Max Crane. Max Crane. Crane. Craney. Max Crane, you know, it's like... You know, this is how I sit here. I mean, this is not a joke. I didn't really do... I think really people think, you know, I'm just kidding. You know, nobody feels that way. Whereas it's really the truth. I mean, I'm alone in my room, there's nobody here, I just turn on the camera and I'm having a good time. I mean, explain that to people whose only, you know, pastime activity is basically sitting at home and feeling miserable and then comparing, you know, how miserable they feel in relation to other people, and the one that has it the hardest or that suffers the most is the king of them all. You know, and then you start saying, I mean, what the fuck are you doing, people? I mean, this looks an awful lot like hell. And why don't we just try working this shit out, you know? And just bringing this thing to the next level. In terms of, you know, I'm trying to be the best version of myself that I can be. And if there are people that turn me into somebody that's actually worse, I think then I can make a very honest and very easy choice and say, you know, okay, fuck it. I think Max Crane, if you know what I mean. Think hard, it'll come eventually. You I'm trying to leave it actually as open as I can, but I've been trying to think, why people don't worship my content already. And yeah, I failed to give him hair. I wanted to give him hair. Yeah. Now it says bloop, 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 boop, 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 boop. Now I write bloop, 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 and another one popped up. A kettle full of meaning condensed into truth, then sense. Let's say the truth is that I feel terrible. Then sense will come and rationalize it away. I will run away from the truth of I feel terrible and hide it with facts about my life. Facts like I have a car, I am earning money, I earn more money than so and so, I have a wife, I have children, I have everything that I think I should have to be happy. Now the nagging feeling intensifies, for you have found out how you truly feel. Why do you feel that way? Are you over exerting yourself to produce an image for other people so that they and now what? Are you overexerting yourself to produce an image for other people so that they will only say nice things about you? Or are you trying to get them to hate you? Whatever you do, if you feel terrible, accept it, work with it. Do you have to feel this way? I eat no meat, although I did eat smoked fish the other day. because I know the truth about that meat's origin. It sickens me to produce meat in such a way. Mass production is a terrible way to use living beings for to feed us gluttons. If you feel okay with eating meat like this, then keep doing so. If you feel disgusted by it, then stop. Make a conscious choice and stop giving a shit what other people think. You are responsible for yourself. Take responsibility and ask yourself, how can I heal myself? And then follow your heart. That's it. Yeah, sometimes I just want to write more and more and more, and I want to keep giving and 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 giving until I'm in this kind of a spiral that pisses me off a little bit. And the truth is, there are so many people out there that may be looking at my content that I started to also change a little, because I actually don't know how many people already follow me without hitting the follow button. And that's the trap that you find yourself in when you're a creator, that you get hooked on likes. But, you know, to follow someone like me is actually a pretty, you know, sometimes people like an image that I, you know, and then they take the like back because suddenly they're uncertain about, you know, can I actually like this? I mean, what is this guy's message, right? I mean, am I allowed to like this guy because he looks like, you know, he stands against everything that other people are saying, you know, is the real way to be? And then I just say, yeah, I think I just have to do something else with my life now. And it's crazy to see how many people, I mean, you see images of 12-year-old girls and you look at the image and it looks super sexy, you know, she's got nice calves and, you know, perky tits, and you think, oh wow, you know, I could have her here. And then you see, but she's 12 years old, you know, that's deception. That's also thinking, you know, getting sucked into what other people, you know, are trying, you know, the image they're trying to create. And I'm trying to create a fairly truthful and honest image of myself. And so I also had to learn to slow down a little, maybe do a bit less, and to say, all right, that's it. I mean, that's it. I mean, you've heard enough. I mean, that was almost 2 hours for free. If you like what I'm doing, you know, probably have to say that, you know, you can subscribe if you want. there's probably gonna be a video per day for a very long time. We're now, you can see it Friday, August 11th, and this will be released on, I'm actually quite organized. This will be released on the 17th of November. So I have a 3-month gap to my content so that I can keep this going and feel relaxed about it, right? That's what I needed, which is also why I started to make post shorter videos so that I can keep up this daily thing, your daily dose of Chris, which I may call it from now on. Anyway, the weirdest thing is when you start being a little bit nicer to realize, wait, do I actually want to be nice now? Or do I keep being an asshole? Can you actually be an asshole? It's the perspective, I just would try to be as little toxic as I can be. So it's always, keep the child in the room, right? If you feel like there could be a child now, I think it's pretty safe. It's so weird, but that's my life.